So how many of these can write on? It's going over the one ticket now. You should be. Thank you. It's in the. What I would say now, 17. Service people.
It's over here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for all.
Great. We have a couple of housekeeping items that we need to go over. We have a number of new members that we have to vote on. Noel, you were a member all along, haven't you? Or did you just re-up?
I thought I re-upped.
I thought you were a member continuously, weren't you? Or did you stop for a while? Oh, okay. Well, anyway, we have to vote on you.
Alexis, stop.
So, we have 6 people that we need to vote on, and I guess we'll do them all individually. First is Noel AG6. Yeah. So, all in favor of Noel being a member?
Aye.
Any opposed? Good. Next is Linda Suter, W6 Queen Elizabeth, and she paid, and she's been to 2 Zoom meetings, I believe. So all in favor of Linda?
Aye. Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Sounds like a Budweiser commercial.
Aye, aye, aye.
Next is Mark Raptis, KF6WTN. Everybody in favor, and he's been to 2 meetings, and has he paid his dues?
He's paid his dues, but he didn't send in his
Application. Okay.
detail.
Well, we'll rattle him to get his application. And it's just now that there's no longer a requirement for DXCC or workable zones, it's a formality of just their name, phone number, email, etc. Right. All in favor of Mark KF6WTN?
Aye.
Anyone
Aye.
opposed? Next is next is Bill Eccleton, W6 Zulu November. And he paid at the party. I guess that was one meeting that he's been to. I think he's been to another one also. So we're counting his participation at the holiday party as one of the meetings that he went to. So all in favor of Bill?
Aye.
Anyone
Aye.
opposed? Okay. Next is Quinn Lacey, KI6 Lima Alpha Tango. And we've got an application from him, yes?
Pardon?
Oh,
He's been to several.
he's been to several meetings, yeah. And is he paid?
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor of Quinn, KI6LAT? Anyone opposed? Oh, and last is Mel Hughes. Is Mel on the?
I'm right here.
Yeah. Oh, hi, Mel. How are you? All
I'm
in
well, thank
favor? Anyone opposed? Good. Okay, so our slate of 6 new members are voted in. Congratulations.
Thank you.
The ARRL this year has the year of the club, and they solicited write-ups from the various clubs. And we, as a DX club, sent in a thing to Bernie Bernie McLennan, who does the How's DX column. And on page 84 of this month's QST, they took our write-up. And if you guys can humor me and let me read this three paragraph article, and you can read it on your own at your leisure. But here's how it reads. Born in the aftermath of World War II, San Diego DX Club traces its origins to 1946, when returning hams who were eager to reconnect with the world founded what became one of the nation's most respected DX organizations. The club's formal charter followed in 1949, and by the 1950s, SDDXC managed the W6QSL Bureau and established a membership ladder list that continues to this day. The club became an ARRL affiliated organization on September 28th in 1959. Today, San Diego DX Club stands at the intersection of tradition and innovation. We are a multi-generational community where old-timers, many at the very top of the DXCC honor roll, share a lifetime of experience with newer DXers eager to make their mark. Together, we blend the heritage of CW and SSB DXing with the excitement and efficiency of modern digital modes, representing the leading edge of amateur radio technology. Our monthly meetings feature presentations from world-class DXers and technical experts, while our members consistently excel in major contests and DXpeditions. Beyond the chase for rare ones, San Diego DX Club remains a place to share stories, mentor newcomers, and celebrate excellence through the annual awards program, Hall of Fame, DXer of the Year, Top Gun, Big Gun, and Rookie of the Year. We also keep the spirit alive through our Summer Bash and Holiday Party, uniting hams across Southern California who share the thrill of DX. Whether you're chasing your first DXCC country or adding to your honor roll standing, San Diego DX Club bridges generations, preserves the art of DXing, and propels the DX community confidently into the digital age. For more details, check out our website at www.sddxc.org. That's it. So I thought that was a great thing. Since I'm illiterate, Bob
Very nice.
Foley helped write
Very
it.
written,
What was that, Gail?
very well written.
Oh, thank you. Thank
I
you.
was once an English teacher. You would be getting very high marks for that.
English is my foreign language. I have just a couple of other comments, and then we're going to go with our program, and then we'll do our roundtable. First off, the Beauvais group, 3Y0 Kilo, has left South Africa, and they were making really good time towards Beauvais, but they've hit some bad storms, and it looks like they won't get there till Friday. So keep an ear out this weekend if the conditions get better to work Beauvais. And the Juliet 51 Alpha Guinea on the western, and then they'll be there till March 15th. The other is our talk tonight is by Bill Salyers, Alpha Juliet 8 Bravo from Ohio. He's the president of the Southwest Ohio DX Association. And the topic is chasing DX during the contest. We couldn't get a live presenter. We pulled a lot of teeth, and there's a couple people, even a hockey player missing a tooth running around, but we couldn't get anyone to present tonight. So let's go ahead with the, Jerry, if we can go ahead with the thing. And if everybody can hear on Zoom, let us know if you can't speak up.
Loud and clear.
Here's a plan of the different options. It's chasing death during the contest. This is something I've done for years. Turns out that the money it's fairly easy to pick up countries in need. But you got to it's a certain approach. I'm gonna just touch on that. 1971.
I'm not getting any audio here.
No, we've lost the audio.
Ops instructor. I haven't done that for a while. I edit two newsletters, the Southwest Ohio DX Association newsletter and the Twin City DX Association newsletter. Southwest Ohio, we're the group that puts on the DX dinner on Friday night of Hamvention weekend. And on Saturday, we do the
Is this louder?
Yeah.
the DX forum during the morning on Saturday. I also have a section that Anthony's also a huge contributor to the Ohio Section Journal. So a couple other things. I'm a letter sorter for the Bureau, and I have a new kind of a venture. It's a weekly what's coming up in DX kind of a thing. So it's something that I'm just getting into.
Amazing.
All right. So here's my operating position. It's fairly modest. The only picture I've got I do now have a hex beam at 30 feet. I don't have that on here, but I do have a vertical in the side yard and OCF dipole antenna, and there's my station. So nothing, there's no four 100-foot towers or anything. These are my most recent QSO cards from Caesars Creek, which is close here in Waynesville, Ohio. I'm in somewhat the southwest corner of the state. And feel free to drop me a note at AJ8B@ARL.net or visit the website. Or if you're going to be here for Hamvention, I'd love to hook up with you. So keep that in mind.
Whether you have money or not, I highly recommend you get this. If you own a car, even if it means skipping a burger, you need to add these to your toolbox. Every tool in here is a...
So if you're going to chase DX during a contest, you kind of got to make a decision. Because if you're familiar with contesting, normally you get into a contest and you want to do your best. And doing your best means that you find some balance between rate and multipliers. And if you're not familiar with a contest, rate is simply working everything you can hear as fast as you can work it. And multipliers are somewhat abandoning that strategy and working countries. So let's say the CQ Worldwide DX contest, the idea there is to work as many different countries and zones as you can. And for each of those, you get what's called a multiplier, and you add those up and you multiply it by the number of contacts, basically. So you strike a balance between the number of contacts that you can make in an hour and the number of multipliers you can work. However, if you really want to pick up an all-time new one or an ATNO, or you want to pick up needed entities for certain band slots, rates and multipliers are no longer as important because your goal is to try to just pick that entity out. So where in a contest, you might, in my mind, it's like if I go a minute and a half and I haven't worked somebody, I move off and I try to find the next person, depending on how I'm doing it. If I'm calling and I can't get through, I may sit for an hour or 2 hours if it's really a new country that I need. So you strike a balance, and it's really a personal choice. You can do both. But I do think you have to, you got to make some priorities. And I think in my case, the priority is I will look for certain entities as long as that the band is open to that section. And then when it isn't, then I'll kick into more of a contest mode. And what I found is I can actually get a couple of either an ATNO or some new band slots and get a pretty nice score and feel good about the contest. So it's a little bit of work, a little bit of balance, but that's what you get. So I'm just curious if any of these apply to you, and those of you that were with me about a month ago, these won't be new to you, but these are just some cartoons that I love. Not sure where I found this one, but this kind of pertains to a lot of guys only work DX during contest weekends, and that's fine. You always have it on your mind. So I went about a week trying to work Andaman Islands, which are on right now, VU4AX. And I couldn't get him. And then Monday night, I got him on 3 different bands, just boom, out of the blue. So Last night conditions were horrible, and tonight they're booming in. So, you got to kind of keep it on your mind, keep it in front of you. And I think balance really is important. You can get overboard with this, and it'll eat you up, and then all of a sudden you're not having fun. It's too much like work. And when you're chasing DX, longevity really is important. I've got several countries that don't exist anymore. For instance, Canal Zone, East Germany, Czechoslovakia. Those countries are still on the list, but they're on the deleted list. So things are changing all the time, and it's kind of surprising because you don't really think there's many new countries, but there really are. I've always liked this guy and the attitude that he has. He's kind of a cool guy, cool commercial. So what you have is you have a variety of contests. So sometimes you have open-ended contests, and I would even call these ham radio career pursuits, like DXCC or Islands on the Air. You're never done with that. You're going year after year after year, and you're trying to increase your numbers. There's some regional, like U.S. counties or Russian districts awards. Now, the Russian district awards used to be called oblasts, and they aren't as popular as they used to be because of the divestiture of the Soviet Union, but you can still collect those, and they're really beautiful awards. There are some band specifics. For instance, like there's several for 160 that don't exist for anything else. There's a guy in Southwest Ohio that offers an award for 60, even though 60 meters is not valid for DX credit. Joe offers that award. There's the Worked All Prefix, or the WPX award, which simply gives you credits for every new prefix you earn. And that's kind of a lifelong thing. And then there's something called the DXCC Challenge. So, for instance, every time, if you think of Romania is pretty common, let's say. But if you work it on 8 different bands, you now have a count of 8. So as you start working all these countries on these different bands, that number starts to increase. Kind of the threshold that separates some from the others is 3,000. So if you have DXCC Challenge of 3,000 or greater, that's pretty impressive. And there's a handful of guys that have done it. And in fact, there's a couple every month that get announced that they've broken that threshold. So the ones that I'm going to talk about tonight are what I would call close-ended. They occur every year. They're typically annual contests. During the ARLDX contest, for instance, you can earn your DXCC or Worked All States. Certainly during sweepstakes, you could do Worked All States. CQ Worldwide, you could do Worked All Zones. And the great thing about CQ Worldwide is part of the exchange is the zone. So you don't really have to hear his call, believe it or not. If you hear his zone, you'll know if it's a zone you need or not. So it allows you to hone in a little bit. So these are a number of different contests that go year to year, but it allows you to kind of build up your points. And the one that seems to be getting more popular all the time is the CQ Marathon. And I believe there's a couple of y'all that participate pretty actively in the marathon. I think Mark has presented to you guys before, WC3W. And he is passionate about what he does, and it's a very interesting program.
The only pants you'll want to wear this summer. Whether you're 60, 70, or beyond.
So here is a typical QSL card, and this is from Eugenia Island. If somebody can say that would be better. But as you study the QSL card, you might ask yourselves, well, how many awards would this QSL card be good for? And when you look at the back, he's got all these different things, the ITU zone, the Oblast, the Worked All Zones, the IOTA designation. So getting online, I was able to research at least 8 different awards this particular QSO would be good for. And you don't always get that lucky and hit a target-rich environment, but for this one, it turned out that way. You can actually qualify for an award in a weekend. And there's a real good contester, Scott Wright, K0MD, and his goal every contest he works is to work 100 entities on 3 different bands. And if he can do that, then he feels like he's spent the time he needed, he's made a contribution, and he'll probably get a good score. That's above my league and the time I'm willing to commit, but boy, it's a heck of a goal to shoot for. So 100 entities or 50 states or 40 zones, those are all things that you can shoot for on a contest weekend. But I think if you're going to chase DX during a contest, I think there's some steps that you have to follow. And the first is you got to determine your need. And I don't know if you've ever done this or not, but if you're chasing DX or if it's something you're interested in, There's so many countries and so many bands and so many modes. Sometimes you kind of forget what you need. For instance, several years ago, I found out that I'd never worked Hungary on 40 meters. And I was shocked because I thought I'd have bet I worked Hungary a bunch of times, but I never had. It's just one of those countries that just didn't work. So that all of a sudden very quickly became, okay, I got to knock this one out. There's nothing especially difficult about Hungary. It just never happened. So you got to know what your need is, and then you got to find out if it's available. What I mean by that is, let's say you need Korea, and Korea I don't think has been on in 28 years, maybe. I think there was one or two small activations, but to sit in a contest and try to work Korea is never going to happen because they outlawed amateur radio. So you got to make sure that your need is actually available. And there's two places you can do that. Bernie, W3UR, has daily DX updates and something called the weekly DX. And NG3K has a website where he lists all of the upcoming DXpeditions. And both of those are great sources. Bernie's is real time. NG3K is more of a here's what's being planned. And it's about 90% accurate. Once you've determined your need and is it available, then you got to start getting much more scientific and say, okay, can I work Andaman Island from here? And if I can, what hours is it most likely to occur? So that's like the third step. And it may be band specific. You know, if I need them all bands, I don't care. I'll find the band that works the best. But if it is, maybe I only need them on 10 meters, then that becomes much more of a band specific. Maybe it's mode specific. I only need Bouvet on CW, and I don't need it on anything else. So I'm going to focus on that for that mode. And most importantly, and I think this is the biggest thing, you got to stay in the chair. You got to listen, you got to tune, and you got to listen some more. And you got to plan. What I would really heavily suggest is that you plan on being in the chair the week before. And the reason for that is, you know, there's a lot of guys that will go to, you know, DX sites planning to work, let's say CQ Worldwide on a particular weekend, but they'll get there a week ahead of time because they'll test their antennas, they'll test their equipment, maybe they brought their stuff with them. And quite often you will pick up entities that you need as they're testing out their equipment. That's happened quite a bit. And the other thing that'll happen is that if someone's going down for a CW contest, the week before they may work sideband and they may work FT8. So it's a good time to pick up those other modes if you need them. And a few days after, because you know if the contest ends at 23:59 Zulu, they're not going to be in a flight 2 hours later. They're probably going to be there another day or two while they break down, and oftentimes they'll go back to another mode. So it's usually a great time the week before and the week after to pick up some good DX. Sometimes it's easy pickings. The contest, though, the advantage of the contest, it's the one time that they need you. So before we got on here, I was listening to Nepal, 9N7AA was on, and the pileup was just ferocious, and he was calling up 5 to 10 split and all this other stuff. But in a contest, oftentimes they need you. And what I kind of like, and I see a couple calls that fit this, you know, AJ8B is kind of a different call, and that becomes very sought after during a WPX contest. So it is the one time that the DX station needs you. The other thing I really encourage you to do is to listen who they're working. And I actually usually have an index card because I want to hear where it's coming in. And you can't listen to the signal report because during a contest, everybody's 5'9". Even if they have to repeat their call 10 times, they're still 5'9". So you really got to listen to who they're talking to, and that will change over time. Sunday afternoons, there is some wisdom out there that says if you want to get in, you want to work some really good stuff, Sunday afternoon is the sweet spot. And there's good logic there because the idea is that the big stations have worked everything out, and now they're looking to just get points. They're trying to get their rate up. They're trying to find people that they haven't worked before. There's a problem with that, though. And I ran into this, I think it was maybe 2010. I was really after Tunisia. I had not worked Tunisia before. It was kind of another one of those that had slipped through. And I thought, I'm going to work these guys. And sure enough, Friday night, they were coming in like gangbusters. I didn't even get in. I didn't even try. Saturday, I only had a little bit of time, but I tried. I didn't work them. I thought, okay, I'm all set. Sunday's going to be great. And there was a coronal mass ejection, and the band was gone. And they were gone. So I blew that whole weekend because I really wasn't serious until Sunday afternoon, and they were gone. So you have to take that into account. So I don't, if it's really something I need, I don't gamble anymore. I try to find the space and then see if I can get them.
I have a 134 IQ. I make less money than friends who barely passed high school. Here's what I finally discovered. Last week, a kid I tutored in high school.
So some general contest thoughts then. If you're familiar with spots, there's a spotting network that probably everyone is familiar with at this point, where, from different areas of the country, someone will say, hey, I just heard 3 Victor 8 from Tunisia on my logging software, for instance. If it sees that spot, it will send a text to my phone, which is pretty common now, I think. There's also a DX Cluster app. And the new one that has me really interested is something called Ham Alert. If you use this, it's terrific. And if you don't, it's well worth pulling down. This guy could charge for it. He doesn't. He's got 60, 70,000 downloads. It's very easy to set up. And if there's something that's been spotted, like you can literally say Ohio or Idaho or whatever state you want to hear the spot in, the only time it will alert you is when you get that spot. So Ham Alert is just a terrific tool. And then, sometimes you have to have friends. I mentioned earlier a guy in Southwest Ohio, WAGEX, Joe. I know I have a Post-it here with what he needs, and he has an index card of what I need, and it's an index card because I need a whole lot more than he needs. But if we hear that, oftentimes we'll text each other, which is a little selfish on our part. But the kind of my theory has always been, if I hear something rare, I will work it first, and then I'll spot it. Because I don't want 100,000 other guys coming down on them while I'm trying to work them at the same time. So maybe a little selfish, but Joe and I will notify each other, and we'll try to do it. In the old days, and a long time ago, we used to have a phone chain. So if I heard something on at 2 a.m. and I knew Anthony needed it, I would call him. So 2 a.m. in the morning, this is Anthony. Dude, UA0RR is on, such and such, and he'd say, that's great. I need to now call WB8 LCD, and then he would call somebody else. And then it migrated to some 2-meter, there was 2-meter spotting networks, and now it's become full circle where everything is basically messaging and on your phone. But that's how we used to do it. It's just a new way to do it. And everybody needs an Elmer. Now, maybe not that one, but you need somebody that you can talk to, that you can learn DX from, that can show you some of the tricks. And there are some tricks. So a lot of the times I'll talk about different things I've been able to do with my logging software, and then somebody will say, well, what logging software do you use? Okay, so what I use, next slide, I use something called DX Lab. Now, this is not an ad for DX Lab, to be right up front. However, the software is free. There's a huge support for the community, and it was written and still maintained to this day by Dave Bernstein, AA6YQ. I don't know if you've had him present before, but he does a terrific job of presenting on how he got his software together. He is an IBM fellow. I mean, he really knows what he's doing. Frankly, I used to work for him at an IBM company, and it's his software. But like I said, it's free, and I've used it for maybe 13 years now. It just works great. And this is an overwhelming slide. I know that right up front, but the DX Lab is literally a suite of tools. So if all I want to do is log, I have something called DX Keeper. If I want to do DX Spots, then I enable another module. If I want to control my transceiver, I have another module. It's a little bit of a steep learning curve, but it is just absolutely terrific. And you'll see some of the features. And I'm not saying that other logging softwares don't have this. I'm just not familiar with them. So this is kind of just a screenshot during a RITI contest, some of the different screens that you have. So we're going to go back now, and I'm going to show you some details. So I'm going to summarize the steps in the contest, determine your need, is it available, map propagation to your need, and stay in the chair. So those are the things we're going to cover in the next few minutes. So how do you determine your need? Well, that may seem simple on the surface, but that's where your logging software comes in. So you should run a report ahead of time that says, what do you need? What haven't you worked? Well, in this example, and this is several years old, although I ran it the other night, Singapore might be one that I need. That's the one we're going to use as an example tonight, 9 Victor, Singapore. So that's going to be our goal tonight, is to find a time in the CQ Worldwide CW contest where we can emphasize the best chance we have to work Singapore. However, maybe it's just an all CW contest. I can run the very same report and I say, well, I don't care what band it is. Show me what I need on CW. So it gives me a list like that. So these might have been worked and confirmed on another mode, but not CW. Or it's a 10-meter contest. So I want it to tell me, hey, show me what I need on 10 meters. And these are blocked out because all of these have been on recently on 10 meters, with 10 meters being open. And if you're chasing DX, I'll give you a hint. I heard recently that Libya is going to have a full-out ham radio assault this summer because they've just been admitted to the ITU, and they're really doing their best to get all 7 of their hams on a lot in the summer. So if Libya is something you'd like to work or talk to, it should be coming up. And that's really a great breakthrough that they were added to the ITU. That's terrific.
Close there, mister.
I'm sorry?
Whoever invented this deserved a raise. Can't believe it's already 2025 and people are still using this old, disgusting sync plugs. Come on, those things.
Okay. So again, let's recap. We're going to assume that we're going to be in the CQ Worldwide CW contact, and I'm going to work as much as I can, but I want to focus on one all-time new one, and that's going to be Singapore. Okay, and if you go to a map, you see where Singapore is, and I'll highlight that a little bit. And it's over on, it's almost the antipode, which is the if you drill directly through the world, it actually comes out somewhere around here. So we're not that far from, no matter which direction you go, it's long. That's basically what that means. All right, next slide is there. So again, 9 Victor Singapore. And the reason I picked 9 Victor is that I had worked them, I swore I worked them in the late 80s, and I got the dreaded QSL card back stamped not in the log. And I don't know if all have done that. Currently you work them and you see them online and stuff, but that wasn't available back then. So sometimes you would work somebody and you would know for 6 months that they weren't in the log. And it's devastating when you get a card that you were counting on and it's not there. I also had 2 CW contacts, but I couldn't get either one confirmed. One actually had my call as AJ8B, so that didn't work. And the other one just said I wasn't in the log. So I just didn't have any luck with Singapore. So I picked Singapore. Here's where we're going to go. Now, is it going to be available for that weekend? So and again, this is dated, but the first thing I did is I went out and looked at the ng3k.com website. What is going to be available? What the expeditions are planned for that weekend? And if you look at this, there was Rwanda and St. Bart's, but none of those are Singapore. So that doesn't help. None listed. So then using my logging software and the DX Lab, the spotting portion of this is called Spot Collector. You can go in and you can say, okay, show me in the last 2 weeks all of the spots that have come from Southeast Asia. And it gives you this list. And now you can start breaking it down. And it gives you a lot of details like what was the signal to noise ratio and all these other cool things. But now you can start drilling down. You say, well, these are from Asia. These were spots from Asia. What am I going to see? And we're going to go here. And here's what I boiled it down to was in the last 2 weeks, 2 different 9 Victor stations were spotted in several weeks in my region. And the reason that's important is, honestly, I'll pick on Anthony again. If Anthony hears it up in northern Ohio, it really doesn't help me a lot in southwestern Ohio. And likewise, if I spot it down here, he may not hear it. So it's important to try to get spots that are close to where you're at. And that way you know with more certainty. And there's no guarantees, but you know with more certainties that there's a really good chance that you could have worked those guys. So here's 2 examples, 9/15. So this was 2 weeks before CQ Worldwide RIDI. But I was just doing some homework, and you could see at the time it says it was needed for DXCC, for Marathon, and for the prefix, and all that makes sense. I was encouraged that it was 2 different stations, so it wasn't the same guy. So that's one way to do it. The second thing I did is I thought, okay, I got this contest coming up, though. Are there any contest stations in Singapore? Because if there aren't any contest stations, this is really going to be hit or miss. So I went to cqworldwide.com/results. And I found every year, the first year, I believe the first year was 2019, there were at least 5 stations that logged 300 QSOs or more. The next year there were 4, and the next year there were 5 again. So now I'm starting to feel pretty good, is that these are 3 years in a row, there were at least 4 9 Victor stations that were participating in the contest. So now I'm thinking, okay, there's probably going to be somebody on Now I got to figure out, can I work them? So now I'm going to look at propagation. What time in that 48-hour period that I have the contest, what are the best times in band for me to get ready to try to work 9 Victor? So there is, again, another tool in this DX suite called propagation or prop prediction. So what I did is I said, well, if I know the contest is going to be at the end of the month, I'm going to go 2 weeks before that, and now I'm going to run a test. So what I did is I ran a propagation forecast 2 weeks ahead of time. Actually, I went 3 weeks ahead of time for that 2-week window, if you get what I mean. So I need the results before the contest. So I just let it run, and of course, what it does, like every ham software will collect these spots, and they put them in a database, and then you can go back and analyze them. So I said, what was predicted versus what actually showed up? That was the next step, because if I can't rely on the tool, if it's way off, it's a total waste of time. So I'm trying to find out how accurate the tool is. I hope that makes sense. So in this propagation view, there's a couple of conditions you put in. The first one is, what do you think the date is? And what Dave does on his software, he doesn't leave anything to chance. So as soon as you put the date in and you click the U, it will go out to the NOAA and the WWV sites and pull down the information. What it projects that the SFI will be, the signal to noise, the K and the A index, and all that kind of stuff, and what mode you're using. Then you put in your station information. How much power do you think you're going to run? I put 200. Then you put in the DX station. Well, of course, I don't know a specific DX station, but I kind of picked central Singapore. I put the latitude and longitude in there, and I said, okay, he's going to be running 500 watts. Go ahead and tell me what your projection is going to be. And here's what it said. It said that in this, overall, I'm looking at it, I said, well, for 20 meters is probably going to be my best bet. And I know it's gray line. So I'm kind of looking like let's say an hour before and an hour after. So right between 10 and 1400 Zulu at this time might be my best chance. And I say, what band would that be? Well, the minimal usable frequency here is black, and that's about just under 20 meters. So I got a good probability 20 meters is going to be the sweet spot. And at least one of those spots I knew in the last 2 weeks was also from 20 meters. So that supported my investigation. So that's what I'm looking for right there. A little before and a little after. Actually, more after, but a little before. So my time period is done. I've collected all these spots, and now I'm going to go back and look and see how they flew. So I said, all right, now show me all the spots from Asia that came in during a certain time frame. And here they are. And I didn't display all of them, of course, but there's a whole bunch of different spots. And you can see all these Asian stations, Mongolia and China and Thailand and Turkey and all these different cool things. But now I'm looking from that continent.
Should these glasses be illegal in the US? Nobody believed me at first, but now everybody wants a pair. My friends roasted.
And you can then chart that. So you can say, okay, don't show me the actual list. Show me a data graph of how this stuff fell out. So it said the most spots that came in for that region of the world was 20 meters. And most of them are right here between 12 and 15. So this is actual real-time data. This is not projected data. This is the real-time data from the weekend before. Well, if I take that and I match it up to what the prediction is, I find out it's actually pretty accurate. It had predicted that between 11:30 Zulu and to 16:30 Zulu, a 5-hour window, 40, 30, and 20 would be the bands with my best chance. In reality, between 1200 and 1500, the majority of the spots from that area of the world were found on 20 meters. So it actually took the predicted and correlated it to the actual and made me feel pretty good about the tool. So I just redid the analysis, and it said during the contest, you should be looking in this direction, at this time of the world on this band, and you should have your best results. Doesn't guarantee it. And of course, there's all kinds of issues, CMEs and propagation, A and K index and QRM and everything else. But you're trying to narrow this down so you can work these all-time new ones. And as it turned out, I got it. So that was really exciting. I was like, wow, I was able to prove it and I actually worked them. But there's one other thing that you should never forget about, no matter what all this tells you. It's something called the gray line. And if you're familiar with the gray line, it's this divider between daylight and darkness and daylight. And what's basically happening there is that the layers that do night reflection of the signal have not collapsed yet as it goes into day. And on the other end, the day layers are still energized as the night areas are coming up. So you kind of get a bonus, if you will. So if you're shooting at the gray line, there's a lot of times, plus or minus an hour on this gray line, you can work DX that you won't hear any other time of the day. And this is actually effective even during a very low sunspot cycle. Gray line can still be hot. And I know several guys that plan their work route or their time to work around whatever the gray line is. And for 9 Victor Singapore, gray line is plus 13 hours. So no matter what my propagation said, I still always rely on the gray line. I turn the beam that way, and hopefully I get something out of it. Make sure you regularly operate and pay attention. And I can't emphasize that enough. You will have a feeling for propagation already if you work a lot. You'll know about other modes and bands, and you end up trusting your gut. Should I chase this guy? I'll never work him. Maybe I should. Maybe I should stick my nose in. Joe has a really good story about he was chasing Scarborough Reef, and he wasn't getting through, so he decided, well, I'm not going to sit here and call. I'm actually going to listen. And they were like, if I remember the story, it was like 14.2, and all of a sudden he heard the operator say 14.300. So Joe heard that and he said, well, that's kind of odd. And he went up there and he worked him on the first call. And that guy had thrown that out there for people back home that wanted to work him. They would follow him up there. Well, because Joe was listening and not just transmitting. He heard that, he worked him on the first call. It turned out that's the only time he'd worked Scarborough ever. So that was quite a coup for him just because he listened. And again, the other thing is I think you really do have to stay in the chair. Keep computer logging and record keeping. I think everybody does that now. Excuse me. The DX clusters are important. Read the DX bulletins. Join a DX or a contest club. There are 2 contests that I work pretty much weekly now. One is the CWT, which is a weekly 1-hour contest with the CW Ops Club. And there's 4 of them on a Wednesday and Thursday morning. I'm usually only able to work one of them. But on Thursday, there's a RTTY. The same thing for RTTY. It's only a half hour, but if you like radio teletype, it's a way to kind of stay on top of it and continue to work. Use Logbook of the World or EQSL. And here's another important point. If you're not an ARL member, you can still submit to LOTW. And I would really encourage you to do that because it benefits other folks that need to confirm your call. So you do not have to be a member of the league to use LOTW, to upload to LOTW. But as I said, I think one of the key things you have to do is you got to listen. And it doesn't matter what kind of station you have. It doesn't matter. None of that matters if you're not willing to listen. You hear a lot of interesting things, and most of the time you hear not what to do. And I think that's important. Well, here's another little trick that I learned the hard way. Is that don't ever forget your favorite band or a non-contest mode. So for instance, frankly, my favorite band is 30 meters. I've always loved 30 meters. It's just a great band. It's pretty much a solid band, independent of the sunspot cycle. Not really, but it kind of is. And there's a couple hams I know, 9J2BO, Brian in Zambia. He works contest weekends, but he doesn't on the WARC bands. So he'll come down to 30 meters. He'll go to 17 meters. He'll go to 12 meters because he doesn't want to get in all the pileups, but he likes to work guys. So it's that time where there won't be nearly as much traffic. Also, a lot of DXers will get on the non-mode. So if it's a sideband contest, they'll go down and work CW. So if you're using N1M, and if you aren't familiar with N1MM, Anthony has a terrific a couple of videos actually on N1MM and configuring it, but I leave that open to make sure that I can also see if it's a sideband contest, I still want to see the CW spots because I don't want to miss something that I really need. And I'm not afraid to just jump over to a different mode or a different band to try to work them. I don't want to be shy about it. The other thing you need to do, and I never thought of this, I don't know why, but I needed Alaska years ago on 80 meters for worked all states, and it would have been entity number 99 on 80 meters. So I thought, okay, I'm going to really hunt down Alaska. So I found him on 40 and I worked him, and I said to him, hey, do you guys have a station on 80? And I did get a question one time, how do you ask? Well, this is how I did it. He gave me my report. I gave him, hey, you're 5'9" in zone 4, 80 meters question mark. And he was like, okay, wait a minute. He checked 3503. So I spun down there, and sure enough, I got him. And had I had to try to bust through, and it's noisy and all the other stuff, I don't know when I'd have worked him on 80. But during the contest, I just asked him the QSY. They did it, and I got him, and it was very, very easy and very quick. So don't ever be afraid to do that. And again, they need the points. So they're not shy about telling you where else to work them. The only thing you have to be careful about sometimes, like on 40 meters, the Europeans will operate split. And they might tell you to go to a certain frequency that may be for phone that's not in our phone band. And they just do it out of habit because they have a different allocation. So you really got to be careful about that. But because you've been in the seat, because you know your radio well, you're not going to make that mistake. I have, and I caught myself pretty quickly. But so what we did is we determined our need. We tried to find out if it's available. We looked at propagation, and then we decided we're going to stay in the chair and see what we can do. So my question was, how would you feel if you got a good scar and an all-time new one? And I'll tell you, I was thrilled working Singapore because it was like I planned it, and it was there, and it wasn't easy, but I got them. So I was pretty charged about that. So.
I have no idea who came up with the idea to get me this, but it's genius. It's 2025.
There you go. So I hope that was helpful. I hope it was informative. And do we have any questions?
Let's go to the chat, Dan.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Let me get you all a spotlight.
Put your hand.
There we go. And anybody got any questions out there? You said, oh yeah, Victor, you got your hand up. Go for it.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. You talked about listening, and listening is so important. And I've been around operators who had the radio on so loud that when an operator would come booming in, they would say, I hear this guy, but I can't understand him. I said, you need to turn your radio down. Turn your radio down, bring him in at a whisper. And a lot of that stuff goes away because I guess you're not pounding your eardrums is the main key. I never have figured out how to deal with operators who are very quiet. So suddenly you're not hearing them transmit and put out their call signs when you're focusing on this one operator. Maybe you know of a trick to do that. And so much of what we do in contesting is just timing. You know how the exchange is going to work. You know what the script is for the exchange. It's call sign, it's power, it's your 5-9, and it's your location, and you're out of here. Maybe you can pick up that rotation and pick up your, get your call sign in there in time to connect with your operator. But listening can often be helped by lowering the volume so that you can understand what operators are saying. Thank you.
And to your point, Victor, there is a trend where people will, and the Europeans do this a lot. In fact, there's a couple of Italians that do this all the time. They will use N1MM and they will record, CQ and exchanges, but they'll have like an XYL do it, who's got the much higher voice. So when they're calling CQ and then they come back to you, it's like, AJ8B, you're fine. And it really throws you off. It's like, is this another station that just broke in or what? To your point, I've heard some of those stations that are really quiet. And about the best you can do is kind of go back and say, hey, there's QRM, there's QRN, everything's fading, QSB, I got to get your call right. And he wants to get in the log, he wants to get it right, but sometimes it takes a lot of persistence to keep him going. The other thing, I meant to add this as a slide, the other thing you have to be careful of is, if you're using a spotting network and you're in N1MM and you're getting all these spots that are flowing in, and I know guys will just click on it, they'll work them and they'll put it in the log, and they don't always pay attention to the fact that, well, that call wasn't right. Maybe when somebody spotted it, it was K8 GT and it could have been K8 ZT and they didn't pay attention to it. And I just logged K8 ZT because I didn't pay attention to it either. So even though it's somewhat automatic, you really need to pay attention to it because you don't want too many of those, or all of a sudden your accuracy just drops a lot. So that was a great point. Thank you. They've got another hand up, I think.
I don't see more hands up.
Brad? Or is that my? Oh, that's my mouse.
I have a comment.
All right, anybody else? Hands up in the chat, whatever.
Yeah, NA6MB got a comment.
Hi, Dan. Dan, I got one.
Hey, go for it.
Well, first of all, thanks, Bill. Great advice. Bill said a lot of very important things in that talk that even if you're new to contesting, new to DXing, a lot of great tips to get you going. And yeah, KGT is who I always get busted for.
Really?
When I first got my call sign, he had been doing it for so long that I was always getting busted. And then I talked to him a few years later and he gets equally busted. So on CW and phone both, because the G and the Z sound similar and the only one dit away from each other. So I always tell him he's one dit away from a good call. And he says I have an extraneous dit attached to my call.
Carol, I do see no. I mean, boy, any advice for CW contesting?
Milks to avoid. Milk, does it make you fat? That's an easy one. That's almond milk.
Carol, last week we talked about CW, adding CW to your repertoire. It wasn't contesting per se, but there was a lot of tips in that for contesting. The other big thing too is if you're going to be going to Hamvention, think about going to Contest University. It's a great way to get a lot of good contesting information. And even if you don't go, they publish all the presentations and they do about a quarter of the sessions get videotaped. So recorded, I should say. So Contest University, if you've never been there before, make sure you go to that site.
Is that Carol from the Seattle DX Club by chance?
Oh, I'm in swim.
So I did think of one other thing though, if to give you advice, I have a Raspberry Pi that records, it can record up to 72 hours of audio off my radio. And when I hear a station that's really doing an excellent job, I'll record it and I'll play it back later to try to learn what he's doing and how quickly he.
Okay, Mike, that was a pre-recorded thing. But if you have a comment, go ahead.
Okay, so the guys that were commenting would be recorded too. Okay. Yeah, the question I had, comment was the guy that talked about turning the volume down. You can also turn your RF gain down. If he's pretty strong, you can still hear him. Turn him down, and it gets rid of a lot of the static noise and other signals that are interfering with you. That works pretty well.
Yeah, that improves your signal to noise ratio. I guess we'll have our roundtable now, and then clean it up. The DX contest, the CW DX contest was this weekend, so I wonder how everybody did. Conditions were not very good, especially on Sunday at my place, but I had a lot of fun.
W0NI, Tom, and I was out of the country in the last several days. But I'm back safe and sound. No report.
Yeah, this is Bob, W6ACU. I was in the country, and I didn't participate in the CW contest. But I was just going to comment on these couple of expeditions. The set show, I've got them. I think two bands, but just so difficult. But then when this Guinea-Bissau one came on, I mean, I got them on like 4 or 5 bands already. Just incredible, the difference in performance and whatever. The other thing I found, I'm on 60 meters in the evening, and there's you were talking about Singapore. There is a 9V1S I believe it is, call that somebody's bootlegging, because it's the middle of the day over there and he's supposedly on 60 meters and everybody's talking to him, and so anyway, but conditions are up and down, but I've been pretty happy.
Okay.
Hi, this is Jim, K6H. I did the CW Sprint the first weekend of February. I really liked that contest because it's only 4 hours long. Really stressed to try to do the 24 or 30-hour contest. But anyway, so I almost made top 10 low power on number 12. But anyway, it was fun. The sprint is sprint. It's a challenge. But CW DX contest, I was on for about 7 hours, sprinkled around the weekend. Friday night, I had a really good European run on 40, which was fun. Pretty decent run on Europe on 15 on Saturday morning, as others have said. 10 meters was pretty dead on Sunday. So I figured, I would say to anybody that even remotely interested in contesting, if you do phone or like to do phone, this 2 weeks from now, I guess, is the ARL sideband contest. I would encourage you to get on, because unless conditions are really, really horrible, you'll be able to work a lot of Europeans on 10 and 15 and 20 for sure. And 5 years from now, you won't be able to work them at all. So it's just, one of those things. So Joan and I are going to the Santa Maria DX convention in April, and I hope some of the rest of you will be too. It'll be fun. It's like Visalia, except it's in Santa Maria this year. I am a DXCC card checker, and I will be doing that there. But of course, if any of you in greater space here have cards that you need checked, you can make an appointment with me or even mail them to me. Trey and 5KO generally sends his cards to me from Santa Cruz and then sends me SASE. So I'm available to do that. First weekend of May is the 7th Area QSO party, which we generally do from our place up in Goldfield. It's KG7NV, and we will be doing that again this year. I also wanted to mention, Mr. President, that since you said 1946, that happens to be 80 years ago. And I picked up my coffee mug this morning from the DX Club that I got for doing a talk 15 years ago. And it's the 65th anniversary cup of the DXCC, San Diego DX Club. We might want to consider doing an 80th something. I don't know. Actually, the coffee cup says 45, but if you say it's 46, then this is the 50th or the 80th. So, well, coffee cups back then, they were the plexiglass clear things, and we gave them to speakers. Well, we don't need to do that because most of our speakers are online. Oh, well, I don't know. Throw it open. Maybe write up something in the next newsletter and see, because it seems like I don't know why people do that. I mean, it's just another number, but 80 is a good number. I don't know.
Age is just a number.
Mark KI6IT, nothing to really report, but I enjoyed working through the weekend, and as we already heard, it was good for Saturday, and it was the 40, 20, 15 were up and running and great, but then it sort of died down a little bit on Sunday. But I do.
K6RSH, Steve, nothing to add.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Ray, WA6NVL, and I'm getting ready to go to the Yuma Ham Fest tomorrow, and I'll be out there for this weekend out there in Yuma. And then the following weekend, I'm going to be working the booth at the Scale Conference in the Pasadena Convention Center, where that is North America's largest community-run open source conference. The Linux people there, and I will have a remote flex system set up so I can show the general public of 3,000 to 4,000 people that come to this convention of what amateur radio is about and how we're able to use just a computer to run remote bases. Because most of these people are all going to be hauling a computer around with them, and they'll go, wow, I can use a amateur radio station from a computer. I don't have to go out and get all that equipment and lots of neat stuff. We're going to show them SDR stuff, remote sites that a lot of you folks use for listening for DX stations and stuff. We're going to have the remote systems all going up there also at Pasadena Convention Center. And that's all next weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That's what I'll be up to.
Yeah, Don N6 PTF don't really have anything to report right now.
Well, I'm Jim, N6VH. And first of all, the contest this weekend, I did a little operating, all search and pounds. My antenna system, all I have is a vertical, so S&P is pretty much for me. We only worked a little over 200 QSOs. More importantly, however, I'm at the point where all-time new ones are few and far between. And recently, I worked 2 in less than a week. I worked the TJ1 and I worked the AU7. And so that's coming along good. And over to you, Linda.
I'm Linda, WA6HGA, and I worked them too. I tagged along.
I'm Jim. K6SMT, kind of new to this whole thing, but I did manage to do 5 countries this weekend on CW on 10 meters with a flagpole. So I'm happy. I guess I'm also your treasurer. And so we got 14 people that haven't paid their 2026 dues yet. So if anybody has not paid your dues, give me a call or send me a text or whatever, and we'll get your dues paid up.
And Jerry W6 Callion, nothing to add at this point.
Okay, we'll go to the people online. Bob, go ahead. K9RHY.
Hi, thank you, and good evening to everyone. That was an interesting presentation. A lot of good news in there, and a lot of things that you learn over the years. And I think it was nicely condensed in that presentation. I enjoyed seeing the article about the DX Club in QST magazine. Behind the scenes, I had a little something to do with that, and maybe Rob will comment on that. But I thought that worked out very nicely. I was very, very pleased to see that. You can get more content like that every month by reading the San Diego DX Club Bulletin, which will come to you via email as well as on the website. So enjoy. Thank you.
Bob, thanks very much. And thanks for your continued support as the editor for the newsletter. You do a great job and add some really interesting articles rather than the just cut and dry stuff that I put in there. Ron, WA6YOU, how things in Virginia? You missed the storm, huh?
Well, we missed this last one, but on the 27th, we had 2 inches of snow followed by 5 inches of ice.
Oh.
And the ice was, I mean, thick ice. And I have a 36-degree driveway. So I started, and then of course I fell, and I was laid up for about 10 days. But
I'm sorry to hear that.
So I'm 79. I have no business out there doing shoveling snow anymore. We missed the bullet on this last one, though. Providence, Rhode Island got 3 feet of snow, and we got 2 inches. So we're hoping that this is the last of it. DX has been good. I finally got South Sudan, Zulu 81. I finally got him. And of course, the Guinea-Bissau DXpedition is just pouring in here. I got them on 6 bands so far. So we're at 278 on digital and 331 on mixed. Having a good time. I am starting to give away some of my equipment. I have like 40 transceivers here, lots of Drake Collins you know, it's that time. So I've been giving a lot away, and we have a ham fest. I'm going to be selling quite a bit of that, but I'm going to keep a station here as long as I can. So back to you all in San Diego, and yeah, we are. Let's see, what is it? 10:30 out here in the East Coast. Enjoy. Hope to see you all next month.
Great. Thanks for stopping by, and be careful. The ice is horrible there. Being a 3 from Philadelphia, I know well about that. Gail and Mike, how things in Mexico?
They're pretty good. It's beautiful weather down here. As you can see, we're sitting outside and just finished dinner here, listening to you guys talk. And I worked all zones a few months ago, and I think that my plaque is in the hold mail at home, hopefully in the box, and we'll see when we get home.
K6GO, just a few things to report. Yes, we're going to Santa Maria and looking forward to it. And I have already gotten busy this year with the ARRL Foundation reading scholarship applications, and we will be doing some Zoom interviews of some of the highest level applicants, and all very exciting. And a comment about the cartels down here. Please, everyone, look at the map. Mexico's a pretty big country. Not as big as Greenland or Canada or the US, but it's pretty big. And the United States consular agent is our friend, our personal friend, lives across the street. So we contacted her immediately, and she said, don't worry, no stay in place, everything's under control. And I do believe it. And so I will say that Tom and Ella were just down here, and we had a fabulous time with them.
We offered him the radio to do the contest, but he said no.
And then Jim and Joan are coming down soon. So anyway, it's just great having people visit us. And but the good deed we tried to do for amateur radio is a new couple in this park, and they moved down here from Texas. And we coincidentally found out that both he and Mike worked for Collins Radio, not at the same time, but a year or two difference. And he was N0GR for many, many years. He let it lapse, but we had them over. We showed them the setup. We tried to get them motivated. And he wants to get relicensed, and she wants to get licensed. So that's our good deed to ham radio of the trip.
And they can they can get their licenses in the US, of course, but down here it's still a sad story. No ham radio per se. The locals have said, well, just operate, and nobody's going to chase you down. We do that occasionally. Pretty rare, but anyway. Back to you.
That's too bad. I didn't hear much Mexico on the DX contest this weekend. I did work them, but they were few and far between.
Yeah, there's
Be
not
safe
too many.
Yeah.
Not too many down here.
Be safe,
When they
and we'll
can't
see you.
even renew or get their own licenses from their own government, they get pretty discouraged.
Be safe, and we'll see you when you get back. Steve, NF6V, how things in Australia?
Yeah. Down here near Melbourne. Can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear.
Okay, good. Gail and Mike, I'm glad I had a chance to see you blown up a second ago. I've been trying to figure out where you are. It looks like you're at a post office. Look, that deal you're stealing, it looks like it's the QSL card sorting of some big ham radio office. I was dying to see where you were. Anyway, I know where you're down in Mexico, and Alicia and I are jealous of you. We'd love to join you down there. It looks really good. Okay, ham radio.
That black space back there is outside. There's no windows, no screens, nothing. It's just a palapa thatched palm frond roof.
Looks really great. I don't see any margaritas there. I'm sure that's all coming later. I'd like to join.
We're trying to be nice, so
off screen.
Get you and Alicia.
All right, that's yeah, anyway, hi everybody, and Hi, Jim. It's nice to see you in there. Bill, in the presentation, that was a really good talk. I've been doing this for like 60 years, but you still pointed a couple things out I didn't know on that. So thanks for that. I was on the contest last weekend and I only heard one from the club. It was Dennis, and 6KI was in there. And I say, hi, Dennis. And he says, hi, Steve. And it's always nice to see friends from back home in there. Otherwise, not sure what to say. Life is good down here. And I'm going to come back to San Diego August or September. So I'll try and be in town when I could join you all face to face.
Oh, that would be great. Take care. Thanks for stopping by. Don, N6IC.
Good evening from Sherman Oaks up here in Los Angeles. This is a thanks for receiving the bulletin now, and thanks for having the Zoom meeting where I could join you and see some old friends and new friends. That's about all I've got to say to you this evening.
Great. Well, thanks for stopping by, and any other Southern Cal people that are interested, tell them about us. And we're here the last Wednesday of the month with a Zoom and in-person meeting.
Right.
Bud, E6BH, how you doing?
Oh, hey guys, Bud here. E6BH, doing okay. Had some dental work done today. Didn't feel quite up to eating out, so thought I should stay home. Anyway, DX has been good. I've been focusing on 80 meters, pursuing my 5-band DXCC. So that's I pretty much just get on in the evenings and wait for new DX to show up and get them where I can. I did finally, after all these years, got my Gibraltar the other day, and quite a few new band slots on Deshatio Island there, and the new DX edition that's going on in Guyana. I could have sworn I had Guyana, but nope. So it was ouch. That was an all-time new one for me. That's the 8R1WA station. That's about it. So back to you.
Great. Mel, K6SY.
Hi, we're in Rancho Palos Verdes in Southern California, not far from where Don Wallace had his station. Not worked much DX, not on the air very much anymore. Got tired of having to replace the rotor in my beam all the time so I got rid of the DX, the stepper, and gone back to a smaller Mosley antenna, but seems to be working. Hopefully we'll get on the air more, start working some DX again. That's about it from here.
Great. Well, thanks for stopping by, and stay well up in Rancho Palos Verdes, you said, right? Yeah. Okay, well, 73. Bob, I guess the reason that the KP5 is so weak is they are running strictly off of battery and solar power and verticals. They don't have real good antennas, and they're 100 watts or less. And some days I've seen posts where they say they're QRT because the batteries didn't charge enough. So yeah. Yeah, I saw that. So.
Yeah, if it's cloudy, they don't get enough charge and they have to shut down.
Right. Yeah. Well, the difference, yeah, of course, yeah. Right.
Comment for you, Rob.
Yeah, go ahead.
You stated that the DX Club meetings are the last Wednesday and they're fourth Wednesday.
It's the fourth, yeah. Thank you for the correction. I realized that when I said it. Okay. Anybody online have anything else? We're gonna.
I would add one comment, Rob, with regard to the KP5 Desatio. Their website is excellent, and you can tell exactly what bands they are operating on at any given time by watching their website. And then also, of course, they log instantaneously.
It's like they have that, like the old maritime type thing, except it's 24 hours instead of.
Okay, well, 73 to the guys online, and we'll see you next month.
Okay.
Thanks for stopping by. Stay safe. Has everybody filled out a, no?
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Take care.
Oh,
Where's the Jane?
I have a pen. Where-
But there was some spare paper in there, I guess. So let's try to find, I'm going to throw one of these out here. Were there any more?